Let's go!
I always speak for myself. Just got to play better.
Today we are breaking down the Kansas City offensive line in particular. We're not really going to focus too much on Mahomes because, well, a lot of the times receivers were not open. You can see that Juju Smith-Schuster does eventually prop open right there, but really the simple truth just comes down to this Eagles defensive line just constantly pushing guys back into the lap of Patrick Mahomes. So you get a double here, get a double here. Travis Kelce lets Josh Sweat go, knowing that he has help right here from Isaiah Pacheco. This chip is just not good. Okay, he just whiffs them all together, and there he is right there for the sack. And then you see even right over here, Joe Thuney, who many of you know is a left guard, is just getting pile-driven back into Mahomes. And here's the thing about pass rushing I think people just get wrong, is bull rushes are more effective to me versus elite QBs because he has to deal with two players instead of one. I think weaker quarterbacks who don't have as good a pocket presence, it's just better for you to get there as soon as you possibly can. But quarterbacks like Mahomes, who works the pocket better than anyone, when you have these guys that are also in your lap, you see if Mahomes tries to go out this way, he still has to get around Thuney. If he wants to go out to the right, he still has to go behind Isaiah Pacheco. And then when you step up, these ends are now crashing in, right? So this could have been better for Mahomes. He could have stepped up maybe a little bit sooner and found Juju Smith-Schuster, but it's taking so unfreaking believably long. All right, we get to the single biggest play of the game to me, which was the dagger. All right, once again, Joe Thuney one-on-one just gets pile-driven back into Patrick Mahomes. And look, this is what happened to Josh Allen in the AFC divisional game last year, right? He had a wide-open Khalil Shakir to basically win the game. But when the end is crashing the tackle into your lap, there's nothing you could really do, right? Obviously, in this situation, like we mentioned a minute ago, sure, like Josh Allen said in our breakdown last week, he could have stepped up and bought a little bit more time, but it's just tough. It's just really tough playing quarterback this way. You could feel Mahomes' pocket presence in this game was just not where it needs to be because he was just so worried about the rush all night, and that's why he couldn't get enough on that ball right there to an open Hollywood Brown. All right, so this one isn't as bad as the other ones, but it's still a lot of pressure. And remember, this isn't even the Eagles' big free agent signing, Huff, right? This is not Myles Garrett. Now, are these good players? Oh, yeah, absolutely. But these aren't the absolute tippity-top edge rushers you'll see in the NFL. And once again, Mahomes just does not feel comfortable with guys right in his lap, right? It's almost better to get beat quick instead of that steady push right into your lap because the Chiefs offense is methodical, not only in its pace, not only in its possessions per game, but also the receivers are methodical because a lot of them are up there in age. All right, Milton Williams, former 3-star recruit, just absolutely mauls this Chiefs offensive line. I know a lot of people wanted to put Joe Thuney at left guard and try someone else at left tackle, but man, it's just a mauling, right? It doesn't help that Trey Smith was getting dominated right there by Jalen Carter as well. And, the game was basically decided on the Zach Bond INT, but wow. Travis Kelce is still the best playoff receiver of this generation, but just had a tough Super Bowl, right? Obviously, he wasn't really that active in the Bills game. I thought overall he did some good things, but this was honestly one of the first viral breakdowns. This play works almost every time for Kansas City. It's a big staple of the Andy Reid offense. It's like a pick and roll where you block the end just for a bit and then you leak out as the receiver here. And this honestly is really good design by Andy Reid because you'll see that Hollywood Brown on this split zone motion takes not only Zach Bond out of the play, he also takes this safety out of the play. The problem is the initial block by Kelce just wasn't good enough, right? So watch what happens here. He gets a little chip right here on Sweat, but it wasn't enough. Okay? You got to get a little bit more on this play. The second thing is when the Chiefs run this play, I prefer Travis Kelce to be right here, right? A little bit of an underneath slip. Sometimes they throw the football literally right here. Instead, Kelce is basically square with Mahomes. So the angle for him to actually throw this football isn't really great. If you're going to do this, you would prefer him to be out here, but more often a little bit more to the inside. And how is Mahomes going to throw this? He can't, all right? But if there was a way to get this ball to Kelce, you'll see that he would have had room on the cutback here. But still, it's a sack. Sweat was just freaking incredible. All right, so they had freaking Huff inactive because 16-year vet who won a Super Bowl with the Eagles a few years ago, Brandon Graham, got active. And look at what he does to Jawan Taylor. I mean, first off, I'm not the absolute best expert on offensive line, stance, leverage, all that stuff. Obviously, Jawan has his own way of setting up his feet, but you could see they stutter a little bit. This is not a comfortable get off. And look at how high he is. And guess what? Brandon Graham sees it. Not a good initial punch, and he's leaving his body wide open for a nasty bull rush. And you see what happens to Taylor right there. Just gets lifted off the ground, okay? And if you're Mahomes, you have to feel pretty good about that matchup, right? Graham, this is his first game back. But, he gets called for a holding, and this play is basically dead. All right, the great Jalen Carter. And this was indeed a hold. And Nick Bosa's like, wait, where was this the other time? Obviously, you just can't tug a guy to the ground. And I think this is also a good example of what happened to this Chiefs offensive line. Once they felt Mahomes was rattled and Mahomes was panicking, they began to panic, okay? Smith is an all-pro. Look at where Jalen Carter is twisting, right? He is twisting all the way out here. All right, it's not likely that he's actually going to get home on this rush, but he still panics and brings him down to the ground. All right, Nolan Smith, this actually was on the first drive of the game, and I purposefully didn't want to talk about game or situation in this. I wanted to focus just on the offensive line on a play-to-play basis, and this is practically the same thing we had been talking about, okay? Once again, the Eagles' defensive line did a smart thing, just constantly bull rushing Mahomes like this because it just gums up the rush lanes, right? There's no clear path for Mahomes to go through, right? As a rusher, Eagles did a good job, everybody staying on their feet because if you go to the ground, he'll just find that lane. And now there's just nothing for him to do. Now, in this situation, do I think he could have rushed through here? Potentially, yes, but you see what I'm talking about? These Eagles rushers did a good job creating a lot of traffic, and this was, to me, early in the game, a concerning play for Mahomes. The fact that Jalen Carter, after getting blocked in the back, was able to still bring Mahomes out. Mahomes beats this contain so often. Maybe the block in the back even helped catapult Carter, but that was a big, big, big play, and it should have been a pick. Wow, wow, wow. Look at that. All right, out of all of these reps we have broken down here, this one is mostly on Patrick Mahomes. Like, you simply have got to get through this. It's 3rd and 3, and if he rushes vertically, he's picking up this first down. Okay, so he's given an opportunity, a rush lane to run through, but instead of going vertically, I mean, there's a guy right here on Hollywood Brown. You'll see he does this thing where he lifts his legs to make sure his knees don't get pinned to the ground. And he thinks he can get this ball off to Hollywood Brown. If he would have just ran vertically, he's picking up this first down. All right, so if you enjoy breakdowns like this, please hit the subscribe button. We are still cooking. Milton Williams, little swim move to the inside. Man, this is just good stuff overall right here from the Eagles, okay? This is good recognition as well from Jalen Carter. And I think if we were to compare these two defenses, one thing that the Chiefs' defensive line did not do a good job of versus Jalen Hurts was the over-penetration of Hurts, right? That is a major pause moment. But here's exactly what I'm talking about, all right? Williams right here has a nasty swim move to the inside to the point where Creed Humphrey saw Jalen Carter just stop and decide to come help. He looked to see Carter, and then he's too late here to help on Williams, where he is just breaking through right here, creating a lot of havoc. But this is where this play really was made. It was actually also made by Jalen Carter. You see, he knows he's getting the double by the two best players on this Chiefs offensive line, and he just stops, right? Stopping is so smart because once you see that there's penetration right here, there's no need for you to go upfield as well, right? So let's just say Mahomes squirts through this. You're there to pick up the scraps as a second wave pressure, right? If you were to go look at our Jalen Hurts breakdown, you'll see plenty of times where the Chiefs just kept over-penetrating because the pressure was so much. You could see on a rep like this where the rush lanes weren't really good, all right? You see the Eagles are so far upfield. Nolan Smith upfield, Jalen Carter upfield. But Mahomes' drop is so deep, we just need you to get vertical here. But you'll see he's trying to scramble out here to the left. I have no idea why he decides to run out here to the left instead of just stop and go back this way. Once again, it's very, very difficult to do that. Either way, we've seen Mahomes get out of that situation plenty of times in his career, and he gets sacked. Now it's time to break down a rush rep. Wow, wow, wow. Patrick Mahomes, you'll see they're trying to run some kind of trap variation here, and there is so much run game philosophy we can break down on this play alone, okay? So what the Chiefs are trying to do here is create some illusion that this can go to the right, but it's actually a trap going to the left. And there are two pullers, right? So the philosophy behind this can be twofold. You can do one of two things as the edge defender, as the unblocked player. The first thing you can do is something called a box technique. So when you do a box technique, you're attacking this player on this shoulder and you're forcing this run to be boxed in to the inside. All right. Another technique that you can do is a spill technique. All right. This is what the Ole Miss Rebels did a really good job of this year as the best run defense of college football. What a spill is, you get inside this gap and you're forcing this run to the outside to bounce, all right? So you could spill it and just go purely to the inside, cut off this gap, and force Pacheco to run into a linebacker scraping over, all right? But then there is a third option, and this is the absolute best option, if you ask me. It's just blowing the guy up square, all right? So the first thing that helps Nolan Smith out is the DT just explodes this play right up the gut, right? Obviously, I'm not going to say his name. He's had a tough enough night. 66 was just brutal in this game. But even if he didn't blow this play up, watch this right here from Nolan Smith on an all-pro guard. Boom! Okay? Just absolutely rock 'em, sock 'em, robots this guard into oblivion. Check out our breakdowns from the game, okay? It is Power Hour NFL. And tonight we're doing lemon pepper wings.